This is the testimony to the New York City Council, Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection, and the Subcommittee on Franchises and Zoning, Tuesday, February 8th, 2022, 10 a.m. Good afternoon, Chairs Velasquez and Riley and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Truly grateful for my 2 minutes and thankful to my colleagues for giving hours out of their business day to share their 2 minutes of thoughts on creating a permanent outdoor dining program in the city of New York. I am Michael Brady, Chief Executive Officer of the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District located in the South Bronx. The 3rd Avenue BID is the Bronx's oldest BID and manages one of the busiest transportation centers in the borough, greeting over 300,000 visitors daily. The district has a ground floor vacancy rate of 8%. In addition to leading the 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District, my organization currently manages the Bruckner Boulevard commercial corridor to our south along the Harlem River waterfront with a vacancy rate of 4%. Collectively, these areas represent a major portion of the South Bronx with over 700, largely first and second generation owned member businesses, slated to grow to 1,400 member businesses by 2023. Approximately 50% of these businesses are in the hospitality or express service food sector. Our organizations have had a great impact on ensuring that businesses, particularly those in the outer boroughs, can exist and thrive in the rapidly changing economic landscape that is New York City, especially during the height of COVID-19 and subsequent variants like Omicron and Delta. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Bronx Chamber of Commerce and the New York City Hospitality Alliance, and a hospitality business owner. Today, I'm speaking in my capacity as a leader of business improvement districts and as a business owner. As you may know, business improvement districts are legislative partners of the City of New York, funded and self-sustained by contributions in the form of a special assessment on property owners. Business improvement districts have a management agreement with the City of New York and are some of the earliest examples of public and private partnerships. At the very heart of what we do is maintaining the stability and growth of small businesses and commercial districts. In FY 2020, over $170 million in services were provided by New York City's network of 76 BIDs across all 5 boroughs, assisting over 93,000 small and micro businesses, roughly half of the businesses that exist in New York City. 3rd Avenue Business Improvement District had the honor of co-developing the Open Streets restaurant program with New York City Department of Transportation at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. We operate 2 of New York's first Open Streets programs, one on Willis Avenue and one on Alexander Avenue. We were named an Open Boulevard in recognition of our work and our neighborhood's patronage of the program. During this past season, we provided over 100 free, quality programs with the goal of creating an economic environment to benefit the struggling hospitality industry and welcoming thousands of new visitors to our areas. We worked closely with New York City DOT and the Rockwell Group to design outdoor dining structures as part of the outdoor dining program's development, and my organization provided $250,000 in seed funding to have outdoor dining structures built for these business owners. You could say we were on the ground floor of program development and have supported the program ever since. My organization is generally supportive of permanent outdoor dining, and until yesterday evening, we were prepared to give a supportive testimony to this joint committee. However, in what appears to be a rushed end run by the administration, a pre-considered addition regarding revocable consent was included. We will not be able to support this portion of the legislation as written for several reasons, including the lack of advanced consultation and notice, as well as concerns about the seemingly onerous framework that legislation would establish for restaurants that wish to participate in the program, disenfranchising many LMI neighborhoods and first-generation immigrant property owners and business owners. I will share this thought with the administration on how this end-run addition was developed and my concerns by sharing a quote from Margaret Thatcher. "Watch your thoughts, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they will become your habits. Watch your habits, for they will forge your character. Watch your character, for it will make your destiny." If end-run additions to legislation are how this council administration will operate, that habit will dictate the character and future of this legislative body. There are some genuine concerns to creating a permanent outdoor dining program, many of which fall on the City of New York, and the provision of adequate municipal services, with some concerns falling on business owners, especially those in hybrid commercial and residential areas where commercial waste and noise are genuine concerns. The double-edged beauty of the program was the low threshold entry to the program through self-certification, now serving over 12,000 New York City restaurants, 659 of which are in the Bronx, and the lack of bureaucratic bloat that often accompanies these programs and consequently chokes New York City's small business community. We share the following thoughts on this legislation and hope it will be considered as the legislation is more adequately formed and addressed. Number 1, legal and training. As we seek to codify this program and make it a permanent addition to New York's landscape, we must address the balance of government as required by the 3-step legal process: zoning text amendment, a legislative action by this council, and subsequent rulemaking process by the agency that will be assigned jurisdiction. We encourage this council to ensure that the administration does not steamroll an inadequate program through the rulemaking process. Additionally, the number of agencies that must be adequately trained in service provision must be detailed and requires city and state being SLA, Labor, Department of State, etc., participation and training. We must also recognize that sound concerns, normally addressed by the DEP, would most likely go to NYPD after normal business office hours. The current sidewalk cafe licensing program is outdated, cumbersome, and does not maximize use of public space and lacks a strategic vision for New York's use of public space. Community board engagement is very important, and that process brings a level of diversity to this task. However, many community boards lack the capacity, knowledge, or training to fully understand the legal nuances of land use and business processes. This also adds additional time to the application approval and burdensome hurdles for small businesses. Community boards also do not operate during summer months, many putting off decisions until their September meetings. This is a huge hurdle for the program as written. We have significant concerns with the anticipated timeline and requirements for the program as presented today. For example, prior to the application, the business owner must provide architectural drawings and certifications, curb topography, and detailed usage plans, as well as indemnification of the public space, naming the City of New York as additionally insured. This is an assumed cost before the 4 to 6 month application process and community board review. That's expensive, that's complicated, and that's time consuming for many of our small business owners. There must be mandated cure periods, robust education by culturally competent and language appropriate trainers and inspectors. Education first, then warnings, then violations. We have very little faith in the quality of enforcement programs to date, especially as it relates to the use of public space. Number 2, stability and business owner cost. New York City must create a stable and balanced program whereby business owners have a confirmation that funds invested in outdoor dining structures and materials won't be lost at the whim of an agency or faced with fines due to an untrained enforcement arm of whichever agency assumes jurisdiction. We are severely concerned with the lack of capacity from the New York City Department of Transportation and the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, both of which have been overtaxed with recent initiatives. We would further recommend that through the American Rescue Plan funding that New York City received, the City of New York invests funds in a micro-manufacturing center at the Brooklyn Navy Yard or in the Port Morris Industrial Business Zone to fabricate shipping containers to the specifications outlined in the Open Restaurants Program. This will ensure uniformity in code and regulations, address sightlines, curb usage, and integrate with protected bike lane implementation. This could also include a containerization element for waste and to deter rodents, and address vehicular and pedestrian safety concerns. This development would allow for the City of New York to have the ability to move structures with ease and address heating concerns and the usage of dining modules for the unhoused. This would address many of the concerns with outdoor dining, boost small business, re-energize manufacturing in New York City, and create quality jobs in the innovation economy. Number 3, agency jurisdiction. While licensing falls squarely at the feet of Consumer Affairs and Worker Protection, this complex use of streetscape and sidewalks are generally assigned to New York City DOT, but we feel it would be better addressed by a mayoral office of the public realm, which could manage the multi-agency relationships needed to adequately codify open restaurants and the use of open space, recently reimagined by the impact of COVID-19. Number 4, curb usage and fees. As with everything in the City of New York, we charge for space through licensing. It comes down to sidewalk and roadway real estate, of which New York's government is one of the largest landlords. In examining curb usage concerned by many stakeholders, New York must address shared space for pedestrians, cyclists, and businesses. This includes adequately addressing public safety, lighting, and sightlines. A firm statement with codified actions from New York City must also address vehicular traffic and parking and loading zones. It must also address sidewalk rights as outlined in the contract of business improvement districts and the City of New York. We recommend no fees, and for this council to say no to the law department regarding the revocable consent permit clause. The law department is notorious for slowing down innovation and preventing appropriate real-time progress. Fees will break the back of our struggling hospitality industry and directly correlate to increased financial burden on the business owner without any real assurances from the City of New York. As written, the legislation may also impact the use of public space for sidewalk vendors and suggest that fees, citing, zoning, and regulations from New York City must be applied equally among all public space users, including street vendors, New York's smallest of businesses. 5. Weather. While I appreciate that Mayor Adams visited Arthur Avenue during 20-degree weather and dined outside with members of the Bronx delegation, I think it is important to understand that without a major crisis like COVID-19, where outdoor dining is mandated, most people will eventually become comfortable with indoor dining during the winter months or with inclement weather. This is a consumer behavior that I do not think any legislation can alter. Outdoor dining in this region of the United States appears to be seasonal: spring, summer, and fall. 6. Trash. If we cannot manage waste and rodents, we have failed our people. This is a basic function of city government. Residential and commercial containerization needs to happen and cannot be done on the backs of business owners and residential users. The city needs to equitably install, maintain, and ensure containerized waste receptacles. During a time when small businesses are under constant threat as a result of regulations, lack of public safety, quality of life challenges, lack of investment on the part of government, rising rents, a rising tax burden, and increase in operational costs, we cannot afford to pass on a haphazard program to our small businesses and neighborhoods without knowing its effects and its validity. After listening to the administration's comments today, I think we are woefully unprepared to launch an adequately developed program. We need more than hyperbole and more than statements of, quote, "I will get back to you with that information." How can we as a council bake a proverbial cake without knowing or having the ingredients in front of us? We have the solutions to address all of these concerns associated with a permanent open restaurant program. We just need to get out of our own way. It is my hope that this brief conversation today can continue a dialogue that changes the course of business development and the use of public space in New York City. Thank you. I'm prepared for any questions you may have.